Paul comes over and he goes, "So you're moving?" And I hadn't even told a couple of these people yet.
I didn't say anything.
Public hearing for item B, Pam Truglia.
Okay. One, that would be a miracle. That would be a great
This is
miracle.
the last time we plugged in, I couldn't.
Okay, hold on just a second. Let me see if I
Take
can.
your time.
Don't make them get in trouble for violating it.
Let me see if I can do this. Can I send it to your Robesi address?
Yeah. No, if you can send it to Globe.
Well,
Yes.
and that's just because I know that address.
This one's a little deeper part. Should pop up.
So it's 6 o'clock. Is Danny ready? Is that what you're confirming right now?
He is, Paul not feeling well, but he is managing the live stream at home. If you'll, Madam Chair, just give me one moment to,
No problem.
Shelley, he just texted, he's good to go.
he's good to go, okay.
Get yourself set up there.
Okay, I'm not sure how to do this, Dan. To copy the link to you, can I do that?
Yes. Let's see here. Zoom link. Or can you do invite or not
Okay, I
join?
can do invite,
Yeah.
okay.
Contact email.
Email.
Oh, it's one user
Yeah.
email. Okay.
I
Okay. I
can't-
gotcha. Tell you what. Go is All right. We'll figure out another way. Let's see here. How do we usually do it?
Let me, if
Can
I
I
can
send
just,
you an invite?
I don't know how to get back to the Zoom link. I'm sorry, Tracy, hurry.
Oh, maybe click the
Look
three
at-
dot. Oh, there you go. Forward this or add me to it. You may do it real quick.
I can do it, yeah, now that I
Close
know
that
where I'm
out.
at.
There you go.
We're
Thank
almost there. Hartfordbc.gov. Send update. Commissioner Mary Lowry.
Here.
Commissioner Art Warren.
Here.
Commissioner Debbie Cox.
Here.
And I have Commissioner Justin Acevedo online. We have a quorum.
We have quorum. Very good. Okay, our first item of business here is consideration to approve the December 3rd, 2025 P and Z meeting minutes. Does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns?
Move to approve the December 3rd, 2025 planning and zoning minutes.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay? We're all ayes. Motion passes. All right, here we go. Public hearing and consideration for recommendation to Globe City Council of Ordinance Number 894, zoning code text amendment to update and expand the city's home occupation provisions for residential zoning districts. Case number ZTA-25-01. Dana?
Thank you so much. Madam Chair, Commissioners, pleasure to be here this evening and bring forward this text amendment to the zoning code to expand and the existing home occupation regulations. As you're all aware, we've had multiple discussions on this topic here before the Planning Commission and public. Prior to this, I think I provided a list in my staff report of the dates that those had occurred and what had occurred at those separate meetings. And then leading up to, I will share my screen right now. Up to the January 20th citizen review meeting, which is a requirement by statute prior to any community or municipality or county changing a code. They're required by state to hold a citizen review meeting and make that information known and provide Q&A, question, answer, and so forth at that meeting, which was held again on the 20th. You do have those synopsis, if you will, in a minute in your staff reports. Be happy to dig into those as you need to. And then obviously, just to reiterate the process for a rezone or a text amendment or any ordinance change. First, we need to, like I said, hold that public hearing or a citizen review meeting. Even prior to that, we advertise that. The public hearings associated with a text amendment or rezoning are required to be published in the newspaper more than 15 days prior to, which we did back in at the end of last year, and they ran earlier this month. Zoning text amendments are unique in that they're required to be also advertised however the city might advertise, including a water bill. And that's explicit in that statute, which we did for this case. And then finally, those public hearing, public notices, mailers, and then we've also extended on social media to make sure, obviously that's a bigger reach, but statutes haven't quite caught up to requiring social media as an outlet for legitimate public notification. So with that, that's what's transpired up to this date. Like I said, this is probably the 6th meeting before you on this topic, and I think we, at the last meeting on November 12th, some final tweaks and adjustments to the language were made, and then we'll run through that today. So the goals, and I'm just going to kind of roll through what your staff report essentially shows for the public's sake. The goals of any home occupation, or particularly here in Globe, is to code is to encourage business activities to expand the economy, provide needed services without impacting the surrounding neighborhood, and preserve the peaceful enjoyment of residents' property. And here in Globe, I think it's unique in that we are limited on our turnkey, ready, cost-effective, or value-oriented office spaces and business spaces. So obviously, that having in-home or home-based businesses or home occupations is another avenue to encourage and expand our economy and have more employment in the community. Secondly, we want to maintain and not alter the character of a residential neighborhood. So the proposed code before you, as we've discussed, and most home occupation codes in the world are to keep it a home, not change that character of the neighborhood, because we can see things start to shift quickly if there is an inundation of certain businesses or certain activities for one business on that property that might disrupt that neighborhood character. We got examples, we can always get into that, but that's the second, probably most primary principle of this after allowing people to operate their businesses out of their home. And then finally, protect against potential nuisances of business activity, such as noise, vibrations, fumes, dust, odors, off-site parking, and traffic. And that's standard really for everything we do in our zoning ordinance, but it's always reiterated in home occupation ordinance because it's putting businesses in neighborhoods. So they just want to make sure that that's reiterated. That's just an added layer of protection. And then finally, maintain public safety in the residential setting. We want to make sure we're not creating any potential hazards or traffic issues that could become additional traffic conflicts, stuff like that. Protect our neighborhoods, kids running, playing in the streets, stuff like that. So typical home occupation standards, we outlined our permitting and licensing requirements, list of permitted and prohibited uses, maximum number of employees on site unrelated to the resident, home or business owner, Area limitations for the use on the property, so limiting, like the whole house can't be used, and that's not uncommon. Limits on storage, display, or advertisement of business. Limits on increases to vehicular traffic and parking, not customary to a single-family neighborhood. And then finally, nuisances prohibited and compliance to city codes. So that's somewhat consistent with kind of those overall overarching kind of goals that we touched on just previously. Our existing code is basically a definition in our zoning definitions, zoning ordinance definitions. And it's just it's a paragraph, if you will, that summarizes all of this in a single paragraph with, you know, conjoined sentences and things like that. And that's the problem. That's one of the problems. I'll touch on a few of the others with the existing code. And I will also back up, if you recall, and I guess for the public's sake, this started through a discussion on a use permit early last year, a little later than this time last year, where somebody mentioned, well, I want to do swim lessons at my house. And I think that was the impetus where Planning Commission directed staff to say, yeah, let's take a look at that. Is that an option? Is that something we should do? Correct me if I'm wrong, there might be more, but I think that was primarily how that stemmed, and maybe some discussion on maybe that use permit and what could this be done as a home occupation? And we won't get into those specifics of that case because this applies to everybody uniformly in the community. So that said, current home occupation, no permitting or licensing requirements beyond city business license review, which is the same with exception to a use permit opportunity in the proposed code, which we'll touch on. Allows the principal use as a resident, no sale of stock and trade, professional and semi-professional offices secondary to upon the premises, to the premises. So it allows as basically semi-professional offices and professional and semi-professional offices, and that's a very narrow relative to what we're going to discuss in the proposed code. You know, what you interpret to be a semi-professional use or a professional use, you know, would probably prohibit, if that was strictly enforced, most current home-based businesses, home occupations in the community. So yeah, so just based on our experience, I'm familiar with home occupations and some of that fundamental criteria that we just discussed and what kind of activities could possibly occur within that beyond the professional and semi-professional statement in this. So we have permitted those. As a matter of fact, and I'll touch on it later, I can think of maybe 4 or 5 home occupation requests in my 5 years here that might have been denied. Some really off the wall, but the one was that swimming swim class.
And that was based.
And that's the only one that really stood out, or
And that was based mostly on traffic, wasn't it? Like the traffic originally?
Exactly, correct. When you're doing classes and people coming and going, and there's a few other interesting things with swimming lessons.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that there's barriers and stuff like that. Now, we didn't get into that with this code, but I knew, other codes would say, well, if you're doing something like that, we need to ensure that you're going to have fire marshal out there to inspect the perimeter fence meets pool enclosure requirements, current state pool enclosure requirements, or the current municipal. We don't touch on that, but I'm just letting you know that's just kind of my experience in that world. Obviously, safety again is, you only got one chance to do that one right. And then you can always, update codes down the road and things like that if you see issues or are more concerned. This is the process to do it. So number 3, our current code doesn't allow no more than 1 resident of the premises can be employed. The new code expands on that. I'll touch on it. You're allowed to have a resident, I think all the residents, but from outside is what we're concerned about because they're traveling and they're driving to the property and they're creating trip demand, where a typical single-family home will demand 8 to 10 trips a day. So once you start to add on, and that's that common topic of that traffic to that site and parking, where are they going to park? Are they going to occupy the street? If you have narrow streets in certain situations and places, you want to make sure Yeah, those injured rest. So, so currently, our code doesn't allow that. I think our new code allows one employee and probably possibly two even, maybe by use permit, I believe is how it's written. We'll get to that. Really, every standard that's proposed is much more relaxed than what we're looking at today. So keep in mind, if the city was interested for, or down the road, some administration is in the position to, we need to crack down on all of the home occupations in the community or something random like that. Well, this language right here would prohibit most anything but a professional, semi-professional office. So that's not the code you would want in place. It's not explicit enough to allow the current uses that are operating happily in the community. Number 4, no more than 1/4 of the floor area of 1 story, so a quarter basically of the building, or not to exceed 400 square feet. And it must be entered from within the dwelling. Very detailed. It is consistent with with typical practices to limit the area. Again, if an entire house is used for an occupation, you're changing that character of the neighborhood potentially, and that's pretty intense. So that's just a standard. We've laxed that significantly. It just says 25% of building or out structures as well. In the new proposed language. Item number 5, the residential character of the dwelling is not changed by said business use. No signs may be erected or maintained outside said dwelling to advertise any business or occupation. And we're consistent with that in the new code, and that's just a fundamental standard as well. Does not cause any parking or traffic congestion in the immediate neighborhood. Again, that's the primary focus. We don't want to change the character and create potential issues for traffic and parking and things like that. And then finally, does not cause any sustained, unpleasant, or unusual, so the same nuisance regulations are in our current code. So again, we're going to roll into, I think I've got another slide, and then we'll get into the proposed code, which is very much an improvement to that, I think it's very current home occupation code for Globe. Nature of existing home occupations in Globe, they're mostly home offices for administrative support of off-site businesses like your janitor or some sole proprietor, 1099 type of employee that goes to locations to do their work. They just need to operate, they need a business address, so they use their home address usually, and obviously they're doing their accounting or whatever business administration they need to do for their business. That's by far most home occupations. So I point out just such as contractors and other off-site services. Now, group homes is one that I've definitely, I can think of maybe 10 or 15 in the community. If you recall, about 2 or 3 years ago, statutes changed and said, cities, this is how we regulate, you need to regulate a minimum standard for group homes. So we had to adopt that. I think at that time we adopted, for the most part, the League of Cities recommended text for that. But they basically carved out group homes to be protected in the neighborhoods and could have like up to 10. And it's for elderly or handicap is how the statute was written. And then we also provide, through a use permit, a portion for group homes for more behavioral types of scenarios or uses, because that's, in our opinion, would need some greater scrutiny and review on what exactly is that behavioral situation in the neighborhood, and neighbors would want to know that usually. So we just provide that use permit. Now, you recall there was some issues with group homes in the state. In a community that I had been working for at the time, we had a conglomeration on a single block of people opening up the same group homes. So it just became this concentration because they didn't have the distance requirements. That was prior to actually that statute. The statute came into effect and said, let's separate them, because we saw entire blocks be consumed for, one group's economic opportunity or business venture, where they would start to have a lot of different treatment vans showing up or other activities, and started changing the character. So for that reason, part of the statutes that changed were to say, hey, no group homes can be within 1,200 feet of one another. So, and that's consistent when you want to avoid a concentration of any certain use in a neighborhood, distance separations are required. And same within commercial areas. For certain, they used to do it with like tattoo parlors when that wasn't, or smoke shops and stuff like that. They would start to massage parlors. They would start to separate those. So that's how zoning looked at separating red light, or avoiding a red light kind of scenario in a community. And that's very common. It's a public safety situation. But anyway, not why we're here tonight. I'm just painting that for you. Hopefully it helps a little with why we separate certain uses from one another. And then, so we largely see baking and confections. That's a big one. Between that and the crafts for people doing and selling at our events and throughout, I think, the state. Great. That's a very common use, home occupation. And then finally, business-related visits are limited to no more than 5 trips per day. That's how I would interpret it. Let's, take a look what your use is. We know you can't sell anything on site. That's not what, that no stock and trade is very clear in that code and any home occupation code. You don't want, again, the trips generation occurring there. So anyway, yeah, but that's pretty much how I would regulate them, given the antiquated current ordinance that we have. So proposed provisions. I hop right in them. So that's just a statement. I've got all of the text laid out here. Happy to dive in on any particular topic as we get there. As you know, this is a public hearing, so after the commission's discussion, initial discussion or questions of myself, we'll open up a public hearing, hear from the public, and then close the public hearing, and then deliberate, and then you're welcome to make a recommendation if you're comfortable doing so, or so forth.
How many licenses do we have right now currently for home business?
Good question. I know as of a couple of years ago, about 70% of all our businesses were not in a brick and mortar location. So that's between home-based businesses and out-of-town contractors. We require a business license for all of those things. So just based on what I've seen and had to reissue or will come around, it would be a fraction of that actually. Maybe 150, 200. We haven't specified or carved that out in any way. It's like I'm at home. Sorry. Yeah. So yeah, I think probably the new licenses do have is it's a home based, and then we kind of track that. I track the group homes because of that separation. And it's something you want your fire PD aware of. So where are the elderly? We
So
have
is it
access.
possible with the text amendments and stuff that we're looking at now, obviously having to go to city council, et cetera, is there a way to do a list up so that we can maybe anticipate for future years what growth may be in case text amendments have to be changed, where we know what percentage of this kind of home base, this kind of home base, so we have a breakdown of that when they apply for their licenses?
We can discuss that, and we should have some sort of, at least know what all our home occupations are and where they.
Well, at least we'd know if there was a trend setting and more were coming in at this particular kind of occupation versus this, or something along those lines, to see if there is where we might have to change something again sooner than we anticipate.
Absolutely. We can do that. And then keep in mind, we hear it too. So you've pretty much heard the things I've been asked to allow in the community and stuff, and it's very few. So usually you'll, I'm sure, hear it too. I was like, we need to do more of this. We watch that. But generally speaking, yeah, we'll definitely dissect that. I've seen similar codes for 20 years, and you can almost put anything that comes up within one of those uses. Because again, they're operating their house, they have limited employees, they don't have anybody showing up, and they can't sell out of that. So, the biggest one is like the eBay and the Amazon, or any type of shipping like that, where then that's been one of the bigger changes that we've seen. But you don't see a gross amount of delivery trucks then all of a sudden. I haven't, and then keep in mind, any home occupation, current or future, it's compliance is complaint based. So if there is an issue, we usually don't know about it until a neighbor's like, "What's going on over here?" That's usually how it comes up. They're making noise all hours of the night. We hear a machine running. We're smelling smoke. What are they doing? We go over and inspect. Like, they're working on cars. Now that's prohibited. Stuff
Well,
like
if we
that.
know the information on what the trends are coming up, or you see future changes, that might allow the city of Globe to address those issues before they end up coming into complaint status.
Yep.
If we see changes that are happening because of what you might hear in the community or so forth. So I would like to see the categories and breakdowns like that. Thank you.
Got it. But again, I'll just reiterate, city, any home occupation is strictly complaint-based. If we're gonna look into something, it's not because we're looking for it. We've got plenty of stuff to do. And again, it's hard to tell, so don't even waste your time, in my opinion. Let a phone call come in, find out, document what they're talking about, and then go check it out.
Who would
9 times out of
investigate
10, you won't have an issue.
Who would investigate a complaint like that on home base?
Well, I'm zoning administrator, I'm responsible for that,
So-
so
so
I'll
from
talk
your
to
staff.
staff initially. Say, okay, what's going on, can somebody, well, we just met with this person, this is what they said there is horrible odor coming from this property. Can you go over and verify that? And that's how it starts. Nope, I didn't smell anything, all right, then, oh, well, let me know, then you get another complaint, so that's how it goes. So, the proposed provisions, all home-based or all home occupations in the city should comply or would fall under these regulations. Residential character maintained, no dwellings, so we're just reiterating a lot of this stuff. I'll spare you from reading all of this. Let me know if I need to dig in. Public can obviously read it. But I will get into this uses permitted and the uses prohibited. We'll just go one by one, and if anybody has a question or comment, happy to dive in. So permitted uses, home occupations require zoning clearance, and that zoning clearance is through business license. Basically, because we require business licenses for about anything in the community, that's where I get to see it. Say, oh, yep, what are they doing? Oh, ask them these questions. Nope, we're all good, let it go. And that's typically how it goes. And they've been getting routed for some reason. I think staff's learned what the triggers are. First, professional offices and remote online telecommuting services. Did have one individual write me and say, oh, wait a minute, does that mean I can't work for my company out of my house and telecommute? No, that's not, unless it's your business, and you still can do it, but it's not your business. You're working for somebody else, like a lot of people these days. So that's not, hopefully that's clear to you. I did explain that to that individual. Offices for business administration, such as janitorial garden or similar services. Again, that's most of our business license today. Tailoring, millinery, that's a little old school, but just we want to make sure if they were making boots and stuff like that without, that limited area, not a lot of noise or anything that could be heard. Crafts, again, dressmaking, totally permissible. Handicrafts such as weaving, leatherwork, and so forth. That's, again, a lot of our businesses. And these two, I think, are a bigger topic of discussion probably for this evening, and have been through our discussion. So number 5, the daycare of more than 4 children but less than 10 requires an approved conditional use permit. So presently, we don't have any regulation. You saw the home occupation code. It doesn't say anything about daycare or anything like that. I don't know that I've even seen a request for it in my 5 years. The swim, yes, but not that. So anyway, basically up to 4, we don't care. You don't need a business license as far as I'm concerned. I'm not interested. And that's for children that aren't related to the occupants or a dependent of the occupants. And this code is like that, and other codes are like this because the state then has regulations that say if you're caring for 5 to 10 children in a home, they cap it at 10, no matter what, they don't let you have more than 10. If you're caring for more than 5 to 10, the DHS has requirements and a license and process like that. So that's where we draw that line. And if they want to do that, great, we can do a use permit, we can take a look at it, just make sure there's not a bunch of others in the same neighborhood, or we've gotten that separation, so okay, 10 kids going there, does the neighbor have one, a neighbor, so we're gonna start to see possible situation in that neighborhood, but a use permit allows you to look at that and consider any potential issues. For instance, DHS says, hey, you need, I think, certain play area inspections, background checks, things like that. Great. We don't care. That's what DHS requires. We just want the ability to say, well, you got 10 kids. Where are they going to all be outside running around yelling? If so, we'd like your neighbors just to be aware, because if we get complaints after the fact, we want to know we went through this public process and that you had an opportunity, and then you also have that opportunity to readdress if it's not going well. It's not working out like you thought it would. So that's the purpose of a conditional use permit. So in your packets, I think it's attachment C is DHS PowerPoint slides on their process for that. So, all right. So yeah. So fortunately, under the age of 12 excluding, so anyway, it just reiterates kind of that statute and other commonly understood home occupation for daycare. Daycare of more than 10 children excluding dependent stocking is not permitted as a home occupation.
Dana, if they had like 5 kids from 8 in the morning till noon, and then they were all left, and then 6 kids came in after that, that totals 11, but they're not there all at the same time, does that?
I think it's at the same time is that idea.
be all at the same
Again, I would defer to the state. If it came to me, I would say defer to the state, but it doesn't sound like it. It's that one time, because I think it's based on a hands per care, a critical mass of kids to corral or understand and follow the criteria for, but yeah. And again, all complaint based. If we're not hearing about it, which I haven't heard about the home occupation, these daycares in the community, and what do we know? So item number 6. So that's home daycare. Any other questions on that topic?
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with 5. Is that okay? On number 5, in the actual ordinance that we would be recommending to council, there might be a typo in there. I'm not sure, but in the actual item number 5, the number 10 is not accounted for. So the first line says that the daycare of more than 4 but less than 10, that's 5 to 9. So that right there needs a CUP. And then later on the 4th line, it says daycare of more than 10 is prohibited, which we understand that's per state requirements. But the number 10 itself is not accounted for. So does 10 fall into should it actually be, the first line, should it actually say the daycare of more than 4 children but less than 11? Is that what that should say to include that number 10?
Well done. Yes.
Oh, I got a gold star. Did you hear
Oh,
that?
good girl.
That wasn't my intention. I
Mine
just,
said up to 10 at one point. And then we made it a 9.
yes, that's it. It's
Or that.
it's a very
Yes,
small
thank
typo.
you so
So yeah,
much.
that's all.
Great catch. All right, then moving on to 6, instructional classes. So this is different than what we just discussed. I think if somebody had a home daycare and they educated children within their daycare, great. Have fun, lucky them. That's fantastic. But that daycare is the primary use, is the qualifying use. It's maybe somebody says, I strictly am going to have kids come and do these instructional classes like swimming. But I don't consider that daycare. I wouldn't term that as daycare. I wouldn't put that in category 5. That would be item number 6, just to clarify. So instructional classes, and this by far, I haven't seen another similar code like this liberal or this generous in any code. And I'd love to hear it if you do find one or if you ever do research on it. So instructional classes not exceeding 5 students at any one time. For again, that's controlling the trips per day. Well, trips at one time, like peak time, something like that. For home occupations with more than 1 class per day, the site location shall be no closer than 600 feet to another instructional class. So great if you're doing 1 class, but once we see that multiple class cycle, now we're getting a lot of traffic. Potentially parking as well, which they'll have to show us how they're going to park that many people if they're not kids being dropped off, something like that. So that's the trigger. And that's where we say, okay, 600 feet, because 600 feet is generally the length of a block. Now here we've got, but that's how you start to, again, avoid a density of high traffic home occupations back in the back of a canyon or something like that, that could become potential traffic issue or public safety issue for access and things like that. And we just look at all those things, because if they do want to do that, let's see here. Okay, great. Yeah, so 600 feet from one another, class, home occupation, structure, group home, from the group homes and other things that require, I think group home's the only other code that we have that has a distance separation. They're 1,200 feet from group home to group home. So again, group home next to a daycare, next to something else, that's where you want to start separating those. It's likely gonna potentially be an issue. Or similar home-based use with a separation requirement. In no event shall an instructional class generate more than 24 daily trips to the residence. I think in my staff report, I outlined that for you. That's effectively excluding the use of the residence, which ITE, International Trip Engineering trip generation is 8 to 10 per single family residence. We're allowing 24 more on top of that. That's like 4 houses in one at a maximum. So just want to make sure you're familiar with that perspective. When I'm saying we're being very liberal with this, I mean, it's very liberal. I think our city engineer and city leadership is comfortable with that. So that's what's proposed. Any other questions on? Item number 7, mail order or direct sales provided. Again, we don't really care. You don't see a lot of the trips for deliveries will be usually packaged. You might see, I can get it for a day. My wife can.
I have a question about this one. How are we defining direct sales? And the only reason I ask that is it says, mail order or direct sales, provided that no direct sales to customers occur from the residents. And I'm like, well, but isn't that what we're saying is okay?
There might be a typo in that. It's more or on-site sales or direct sales to consumer.
Can you give me an example of direct sales? Are we talking about like Mary Kay? Are we talking about like Avon? Are we talking about eBay? What are we talking about there?
Good question. So I don't think I've never heard of like the culinary parties, things like that. Now, if somebody's doing it daily, then there's probably going to be an issue. But who knows? We wouldn't know if somebody didn't complain about it. But the direct sales is, hey, I make crafts. Come check them out and come see. Because that way you can't control the traffic, right? They're motivated to sell as many as they can and have as many people come to that property as possible to purchase their good. And that's why all home occupations, our current home occupation code says on-site sales, or they have to use different terminology that we covered.
So let's say that somebody sells, and I might have the brand wrong, but is it LuLaRoe, I think, that is like leggings and shirts, buttery soft, they're amazing, that people sell from their home. And they stock that clothing in their home, and then they sell it to people that come over and try it on, right?
Yep.
So is that what we're saying, is that would not be permitted per this code?
Correct.
But we know that that happens all over the nation. Just like
Correct.
Tupperware parties. They stock the Tupperware in their closet and they sell it. They stock the Mary Kay in their closet, the Avon, and they sell it. What I don't want to do is set our city up for failure by saying that something's prohibited when we know that it happens and it doesn't cause a nuisance. Does that make sense?
It does. So this is stopgap. Now, if you said anybody can sell anything from their house, now what are we going to do?
No, and that's why I'm trying to see, how are we defining direct sales?
If we're getting complaints. There's a lot of traffic going to that location. I can't carve out the guy who wants to sell watches. I don't see that commodity as different as anything else that you can buy at Walmart.
Sure, and it wouldn't be,
And I can't differentiate that
Yeah.
just because of what it is.
yeah.
David, could we Maybe change the wording to talk to on-site as opposed to direct, or does that make sense?
It does.
Because what we don't wanna have is somebody starting a store that, generates a lot of traffic.
Correct.
Oh, that's no different
And
than
we'll
somebody that goes to
clarify
a
that.
Garage sale 3 times a week and goes and buys stuff from other places and then sells it in their yard.
We've had a few of those complaints. It's been a while.
No.
It's been a while. Think oh yeah, we've had to deal with that.
This is a little different, though. This is
A business.
on-site versus shipping out kind of thing.
Yes, we'll update that language to be, it'll be mail order or on-site sales, on-site sales transactions.
Thank you.
Transactions that no direct sales to customers occur.
So is
No
there,
direct sales, okay, yeah, yeah.
so it's implied that it's only, that this would be, complaint-based, that someone would go in looking and seeing what's going on. Should we not specify that it's complaint-based, or is that just implied?
Implied, because you can't control down the road or what some future administrator wants to do.
I guess I'm really struggling with putting a rule in place that I know is already happening and not necessarily creating, like, when we went back and we talked about the intention behind updating this ordinance, it was to maintain residential character and not create nuisances, right? And regulate
Well,
nuisances.
but it was also to give the city some teeth if there is complaints, to be able to
Yes.
go in and there's some repercussions
Yeah.
if you're a problem and you continue to be a problem.
Yes, and that's why there's so many nice criteria around all of the other stuff like daycare or crafts, but we're saying no direct sales. But we know that people sell those. I've listed some brands, which I'm not sure if I'm allowed to list brands in a public forum, but we know that those type of sales happen. So why would we create a rule that prohibits something that does generate income in a non-invasive way in our community?
What if they're very successful doing that? And they've got 10 people, 15 people coming there a day buying that?
What if
Is
we
that
just
non-invasive?
limit it to the number of employees that could go like we did in the other parts of this? And in addition to that.
Or the traffic.
How much traffic can go
Parking.
through like we did in the other
Got it.
areas?
That's good. Yeah, I like that.
And then how do we limit that from being clocks or junk? Or
You
things
can't,
that
but it
people
could
can
be that anyway.
advertise?
Like I said, it could be a garage sale.
So
Yeah.
people can
know,
sell
so-
from their house as long as there's no more than 5 trips per day to the house.
Well, I mean,
You're
that
comfortable
would be
with-
a kind of a meeting of the minds there, maybe, that would allow and keep from potential complaints coming up, because we already know those businesses are doing that. I mean, they're on Facebook posting, so we're setting somebody up for failure, either the city or the person who's doing it, right on from the get-go. Whereas if we address it similarly how we would for somebody who's doing arts or crafts or whatever the case may be, and limited the interaction like we did on those, maybe.
Well, they'd take
that's a-
those to the event that they sell them.
They don't. Right here we say dressmaking, tailoring, miller, like that's all
Or somebody will
accepted.
come by and pick it up. Okay. So then
Handicrafts
you
are
can sell
allowed.
anything from your house that's given you're licensed elsewhere, because later in the code, you're not allowed to have more than 5
You're
trips
still
specific
correct.
to the business.
Right, you're
Does
still
that sound
keeping
good?
the disruption to a
All
minimum.
right.
Okay.
All right. That's another first, I think, that I found. So,
Well,
that's good.
And my intention isn't to like create precedent out of this. We want to follow best practices, but if we're talking about handicrafts, I mean, that could be somebody knitting a blanket. How is that different from selling Avon lotion? Like it's so, this is such a side business, side hustle kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I don't want to dampen that, because that, especially in today's economy, can supplement a lot of families' incomes.
So, mail order and direct sales may occur from the residents and remain in compliance with the rest of this code. and that's what that.
With the
that's what
provisions
it says.
that we did
Which
before,
says maximum 5 trips per day.
correct.
Okay.
Now,
I could see that being, obviously, there could be that would definitely put an onus on the city for code compliance. So we'll have to monitor that when somebody's like, I don't need my business anymore, I can just do this out of my house, up to 5, until I get in trouble at least. But anyway, just keep in mind, then the onus is definitely on staff to respond to things that.
Well, and most of the time, those kind of businesses are not going to be the predominant number of the businesses, and they're gonna be small. I mean, somebody who sells Mary Kay
Exactly.
or whatever.
And that's why if it's complaint based, then, if they're doing it and it's not bugging anybody, is it a problem? But I hear you. I'm open. I do know this will be the first. I will warn you with that I've ever seen.
and that now gives me pause because, we want to honor what best practices are. So what I'm hearing you say is in your experience as a zoning administrator for multiple different municipalities, this is usually prohibited.
Correct. Payson. Remember the 3, and I can pull that up. They had the 3 tiers. So if you want to sell from your home and it's a residential zoning, great. You got to be fronting an arterial road or within a certain distance to commercial. So they build in some additional character-related criteria. Like, wait, they're already highly accessible and already in a kind of a business situation. So yeah, they can do more advanced home occupation work.
Well, they have more availability than we do too. I mean, you go downtown Globe, there's not a lot that you're gonna be able to either afford if you have a small home-based business like that. To me, there is no difference between this, what Mary was discussing with this kind of product, versus, like I said, arts, crafts, metal making, whatever the case may be.
Well, they're
It's
making
gonna
it,
be,
they're supposed to be
you know,
manufacturing, not selling out of there, because we know they go to the events and sell their stuff there. Now, you said dressmaking, yeah, you might have somebody come by, or maybe who knows how they do that. But I've never heard a complaint on somebody having too much traffic for either haircut, salon type of work, or a lady with a barber chair in her house. I've never.
well, those are still
You're a
regulated by the
business owner.
state
What
on
do you
that.
think about this?
I'm a totally different kind of business owner, so
Well,
it's not even
fair.
related. Not even related. You have to come to my place to get it. And there are no traffic restrictions.
Okay, well, let me ask you this question. Adding that into something like that, does that make more revenue for the city? With someone who might normally not have to get a business license because of it being something that they've just done on the side and so forth?
So they're selling something in the city, they should pay city sales tax?
Well, that's what I'm asking. I mean, it's a product, right? I have to do a
I don't
license.
I don't think that's any different than brick and mortar, how they have to report.
So maybe that's something that needs to be brought up in maybe a public hearing and asked with regards to, would someone rather see maybe more of a open concept with regards to direct sales? However, the flip side to that is you're a business. You're gonna have to pay sales tax and you're gonna have to require a license if you're doing something along those lines. So either way, I mean, we could either broaden it to what we were just talking about or just definitely leave it aside. I mean, how much more controversy is something gonna cause if we're telling the Avon lady she's gotta come in and get a business license, start paying sales tax on
They
product?
have to anyway, they have to have a business license.
But we know that's not happening currently.
When we can't control it, we probably don't get half the businesses getting licenses, that's a honor system. Until they get in trouble for something.
I don't like
not
the
looking
idea
for
of
it.
setting a new precedent without cause. So I'm struggling here with this one now.
Yeah, I don't know how you would, again, if you're
So
doing,
after digging into this across the state and a few other spots, after our previous meeting on this, it seems like what we have in front of us is kind of the gold standard for allowing the city to have all the teeth in the world, but it does come down to complaint basis from the looks of it.
And that is what we asked for. We asked the city to research what the best practices are.
That doesn't mean we have to agree with them. It just means we have a standard to work with. There's nothing wrong with leading the way on something else if it makes sense. I'm not sure about this one. I was just basing my comments off of Mary being concerned with regards to the businesses that are there that we know are there. So, I mean, I'm not sure, I'd have to actually think on that a little bit longer.
And keep in mind what you said, like in Gilbert, Chandler, anywhere else, there's a lot of suburbs, a lot of people with that side hustle going on. And they have we've researched their codes, you saw them.
So maybe we wait for them to change it and then we can mirror,
You could be the,
let them go
Guinea
through
pig.
the legalities of changing precedent, you know?
in my time, I haven't maybe once somebody because of something random, maybe guns or something like that, what I can't sell out of my house. No, you can't, it says no sale, stock and trade currently. So, okay, but I don't have people annually, I don't get one ask, so can I just sell this out of my house, is that okay? I haven't had that experience.
You know, I think what you might be saying, not to put words in your mouth, but why boil the ocean trying to cover every contingency when it becomes an issue and it requires addressing, then we do it. But until then, we couldn't write it distinctly and clearly enough to.
You can't cover every contingency, so
No,
the
we're maybe
complaint
trying to
base,
boil
the
the
complaint
ocean
base is
without a
what you
way.
gotta go on.
I think the complaint base is probably the good control factor for now. And, you know, if neighbors start to see a lot of traffic in their front yard, there's your complaint, and that's when you
And
address it.
Yeah, then you address it.
My
Thank you, Art,
suggestion.
appreciate that, thank you, Tracy.
And keep in mind, our police power for zoning is, you know, just like, you can regulate the time, place, and manner something occurs. You can't differentiate, you know, the time, place, and manner, but you can't differentiate one sales product versus the other unless you get into alcohol, whole different world. But anyway, other than that, it's
No,
very
you're
hard to
right.
pick on one particular item and not create a bad situation for our attorney.
So the decision is to keep the language as written, team?
I personally don't have a problem with it as long as we stick with the complaint based. Now, I would,
Agreed.
go ahead, Justin.
Just saying agreed.
Agree, thank you. Yeah, I can see a little bit of difference between mail order and direct sales in that if you're doing mail order, I don't want the UPS and FedEx truck pulling up, 3 times a day to come grab stuff, but direct sales, for your buttery soft things, I can't imagine there's that much traffic over that.
You haven't tried these things.
Apparently not.
They have parties, and they're usually off hours.
Well, yeah, but I mean, anyone can have a party, so, I mean,
Yeah.
unless they're doing it like every single Friday and Saturday night and blocking the entire neighborhood with parking, which I'm kind of doubting. I don't see that many people running to a Tupperware party.
So we will change that language to number 7, mail order on site. Mail order or on-site sales transactions are prohibited.
I think
Oh.
we're saying we're not gonna make any changes to the text that city has suggested. We're gonna keep it as the best practice of what you've suggested. That's what I understood.
Okay, yeah, okay, it reads correctly. I thought we had a problem with the first 4, 5 words. No, makes sense.
We did, and then we changed our minds.
All right,
Sorry.
very good. No, this is what we're here for.
Talked our way through it.
Thank you, Art.
Item number 8, uses that entail food handling, processing, or packaging of specialized minor cooking or baking. Like I said, that's not uncommon. We definitely have some bakers in the community. Businesses such as plumbers, electricians, contractors, pool service, again, because they're effective watch repair, and it's light stuff. Either way, we've got that no more than 5 trips per day. So these are the guardrails. If something's, we're seeing tremendous amount of traffic and somebody complains, we're up there taking a look and seeing what's going on and asking questions. We're looking at the business licenses, who's got what license up there. But yeah, those are effectively their home offices. And item number 10, anything analogous, similar uses to the above, as I determined.
I've got a quick question on number 8. Does this go against the state tamale law that was signed into toured a couple of years ago, I think.
I think that
Called,
was,
home food-based, food production.
I think they eventually passed that, didn't they? Didn't they?
they walked back on it,
Yeah,
didn't
they-
they? Because they had a bunch of people getting sick.
I think they walked back, but I thought the next year it came back.
Yeah, they,
Signed it in.
so the catch-all, when we get down to those final provisions, they're responsible for maintaining and required to maintain all their licensing that applies to their activity outside of the city. We just require a business license, but we do have that statement, so if there is a problem, they're not in compliance, we can pull their license. And again, it'd be the health department coming to us saying, what's going on? This person got a lot of people sick
Yeah.
from what they're baking.
Yeah, I think that was the thing that changed in that bill, if I remember correctly, is they had to register with the Arizona State Health Department as a home kitchen with inspection. I just wanna make sure we weren't kind of stepping on that one.
I'm comfortable because we don't get into that food, that regulation. I do know we have a lot of people making food. It's not, that's one of the more, I'll get that one once a year. From the community. All right. So I'm comfortable.
Well, good with me then.
All right, prohibited uses. Things aren't allowed, you've got the choice of firearms manufacturing, storage, on-site sales. Some communities restrict that, some don't. Keep in mind also, any hazardous materials being stored is not allowed in a home occupation. That's gonna be one of our standards we'll get at the end. So if somebody's storing an exceptional amount of black powder or something like that, because they're selling ammunition or, but definitely not uncommon for people to pack their own ammunition. That's just a known. But we wanna, firearms manufacturing, storage, and on-site sales so far is prohibited in this code. Medical marijuana dispensaries, that's just to reiterate what the statute is for marijuana facilities. It's prohibited from being sold out of a home or without the proper licenses. And then these days you can grow with, up to 6 plants yourself under state law. And that has nothing to do with that. You're a gardener, effectively. The repair, now having people come to your house, that's totally illegal. You're not allowed to sell it like that. You have to have a license to sell. So, we're clear. Item number 3, the repair, reconditioning, servicing, or manufacture of any motor vehicle, including automobiles, trucks, motorcycles, and boats. One individual at our February 20th citizen review and said, well, what about small equipment and stuff like that? Later in the standards, there is a provision there that working on anything over like 1 horsepower or something like that. 'Cause that's when you start to get the noise stuff. It's kind of prohibited. Again, noise complaints. That's how we become aware of that. Item number 4, any drop-off, repair, fix-it, or plumbing shops, again, trips to sites. We want to make sure we've got that guardrail in place if there's an exceptional activity going on and parking situations occurring. We have to be able to do some enforcement. Kennels, storage, carrying, or grooming of animals, that's just consistent. Kenneling for sure, that's always, even many communities have use permit requirements for kennels in commercial districts because of
Noise, I would assume.
yeah, exactly. And then finally, anything analogous to those or similar. Maximum floor area allowed, again, we're a little more lax than I think our 400 square feet, and it can only be accessed on the interior. We're saying a home occupation shall not occupy more than 1/4 of the total floor areas in the principal building and any accessory building on the lot. So we take all structures, just 1/4 of it, you're good. So that's definitely a relaxed portion of the code. Signage, similar to current code, no visible display or advertising like that. And item F, limitations on on-site employees. Now, there we go. I said right now we don't allow any on-site employees that aren't a resident. This code is allowing no more than 2 people shall be employed and work on site, so they could show up and work with that property owner. Accepting occupants of the home, of the dwelling. So that's a pretty significant shift in our allowance there to allow people to show up. Now, when we see the request, or if I have an application, I'll just make sure they have parking spaces. They can show us where the employees might be parking. Or if it's, somebody keeps on parking in front of my house every day, they're over there from 8 to 5 or whatever it is, we look at it, oh, they do have a home occupation going on, we'll make sure it has to be, they have to have this capable to have the parking on the property. We don't wanna have business traffic sitting, parking. But with the approval of a conditional use permit, we could allow one additional employee. Merchandise, on-site display of merchandise or goods for the purpose of on sale on the premises shall not be permitted. Walk-in customers and on-site sales of the merchandise or goods shall not be permitted.
So going back, of course, to being complaint-based, but on something like this, say someone is a Avon lady or doing once a quarter on Saturday, she has an Avon yard sale or something like that and sets it all out. That would, unless someone was complaining, because it sounds like you couldn't do that, but it doesn't seem that harmful if they didn't do it overly much.
Yeah, and the only complaints I had on that were these, was a particular garage sale, continual garage sale, and that's where it's every day.
Yeah,
For like a month straight. We've got a situation, and that's where I have to start to get into the code.
Right.
And really dissect and things like this, I just start to point to these things. Garage sales are so unique. Usually you don't have problems, but you have, our codes are for the margins, right? Most of us kind of understand how to be a good neighbor and operate in public and everything, but that's for those marginal, oh, I got a great idea.
Got it.
It might not be a great idea for everybody, so. But yeah, I forgot how we ended up getting at that enforcement, but it did become up. Okay, this is continual business, basically. Storage related to the home occupation must be confined to the interior dwelling. No hazardous materials or storage is allowed. And then finally, traffic and, almost finally, traffic and parking, that's where we restrict it, no more than 5 trips per day. That way, again, it's based on, unrelated to deliveries, by the way. Let's see, 5 trips per day, unless otherwise specified in the code, related to the business, meaning deliveries drop off on an average over a work week. So there's a span there. So we actually are a little more liberal in that situation than how I've interpreted that 5 in the past, my policy, if you will. So again, it's the guardrails. Whoa, we're getting a lot of trips. It takes a lot for us to go out there and start watching. I've probably done that once in my career. Nor require additional off-street parking spaces for delivery of materials or supplies to or from the premises. No garage or accessory building shall be altered or used in such a manner that would reduce the number of parking spaces required. So if they want a home-based business and they're gonna displace their parked cars for their business, or we'll talk about it, but this is saying now, then we'll start to change the character there, get excessive potential parking.
Quick question on I. In the third line, it talks about, there's a clause that says on average over a work week. I would suggest calendar week. Because if you say work week, now we're excluding Saturday and Sunday, and that could be a tiny loophole there. The calendar week would run either Sunday to Saturday or otherwise cover all 7 days. That's all. So I would recommend substituting the word work week with calendar week. That's all.
Okay. To make a change at this point with this published language, we'll just include that and I'll have it written down to address. I'll make sure if you're considering a motion tonight, that I'll state making that update to number 5 to correct the error, and then update to I.
Yes, that's all. They're very small.
Calendar week. All right, and then the nuisance language. If you have any questions, and down at the bottom there, you see that home occupation shall not involve the use of power equipment on the premises using motors exceeding 1 horsepower. Combined capacity, again, we're not looking at that. I just saw it. That's definitely one way to say, okay, that bandsaw has been running a lot and it's loud. Well, okay, we're out there, hey, your neighbor's complaining, what you got? Oh, it's less than a horsepower, all right, keep doing it. But now there's a noise issue too, we gotta make sure whatever you're doing, we don't have noise. But if it's larger, you know, if it's a horsepower, I think it can move. Anyway, another one of those potential metrics to, if we have to, you know, go to court or something like that, we've got language in there that gives the city measurable metrics to be able to have, present our argument. And then finally, licenses. All required city, state, and other applicable agency licenses are required to be secured and maintained for the duration of the home occupation. So that's our coverall.
So Dana, on that one, if, say for instance, I'm just gonna use a daycare, because I know that everyone's really focused on the daycare. If a daycare has been operating for a long time, doesn't have a city license, but they got the city license or got whatever licensing and everything, before any of these changes come in, are they then grandfathered in?
Correct. The best way, you know, they'll have to show something.
Yeah.
If something comes up one day, from my opinion, the best way is just get your business license. I think we mentioned that through our discussions here as well with people that might not have had a business license. So, because that's easy, right? Grandfather. Otherwise, you know, just start generating other documentation from the state that you've been licensed and operating and stuff like that. But something, I have to have something to show that it's a continued business and not a new business or a gap in the business or something like that. All right. Sorry, that took a while. Staff recommendation is to, motion to recommend city council adopt ordinance number 894. With that, whatever, and I've got some, with a modification to number 5 and the use is permitted, and I to reference calendar week. And to expand the city's home occupation provisions for residential zoning districts. So yeah, staff recommends motion to approve. So with that, happy to answer any other additional questions or.
I feel like my questions have been answered. You guys all right with opening the public comment? All right, so then it would be time for the call to the public. I've got one request to speak at this point. Pam Troba. Please identify yourself and give us your address.
I'm sorry?
Identify yourself and give us your address for the
Oh,
record.
okay, I'm Pam Troba. I live on Railroad Court in Globe. A little bit of background about me. So I have been around childcare for many, many years. I probably started as a licensed home daycare back in 96 or 97. I did that for 16 years while my kids were little until they got big and they didn't like it anymore. So then I went to Head Start. I worked with them for 10 years in all different areas. And now I currently work with licensed centers and family daycare providers throughout Gila County. And I specialize in health and safety issues. So yes, I've been around it a lot. And you guys, you answered so many questions that I had written down already today, so I appreciate that. I would like, one of the things I said was defining the word daycare at number 5, and I think you answered that, because there's a difference between a babysitter, a childcare, a daycare, and a preschool, and you do have quite a few unregulated, unlicensed preschools. We have a really great one that I work with quite a bit, Sylvia, and she's spoken to you before. But we do have quite a few that are not regulated, and they do specific preschool programs. They have an AM class, they have a PM class, they have more than 4. And I see on our wonderful Facebook social sites all the recommendations of how wonderful this one is and that one is, and I have a list of them actually. So I just want to make sure that preschool, because yes, they are educating kids. It is instructional, and hopefully a lot of our other home daycare providers are also doing that, but I'm not in their homes to tell you that they are. So I just want to make sure that those particular preschools are not considered instructional classes. Is that right from what I understand tonight? we would not classify them in number 6.
Mayor, Madam Chair, yeah, that's how I would classify it. They're there most likely for childcare, number one, but instructional is a great benefit, obviously.
Yeah, that's the focus of many of those, is what I'm saying. So I just want to make sure that we have that distinction.
And you said maybe not licensed, and I'm just saying, because then I'll defer to, well, what's the license? So, because.
No. Yeah, no, they're not regulated, they are private, and they have their
Got it.
very good reasons for not wanting to go through that process. I understand.
Got it. Yeah, so DHS, yeah.
Yeah, so they're not right. All right, so they are under number 5, so they don't need to worry about, I mean, I think you mentioned if you find out that there's, house A, B, C, and D on one street, and they're really close, and they have, all these, they're unregulated, so there are more than 4, and they're not being licensed, but, maybe there's a traffic issue. But other than if there is not a complaint with them, they should be good, right?
Correct. How will we know?
Yeah.
I didn't know they have all these salaries.
Oh, you just
And I'm not looking
need to go to Globe Miami Social Site, and you can find all of those awesome providers. Some of them I can see that are, oh, I do it, and I know that person, and I think, oh, that's not good. Let's not do, no, don't send your kids there. So that was great. The next thing I had, and I really love that you said, these providers can get their business license now. Right? Is that a difficult process? I don't remember if I ever had a license, I'll be honest. It's been, don't send me a bill, but I don't think I did. Is it a difficult process, and about how much is that, so that I can spread the word?
You got it. And I'll defer. I think is it $50? $50 for.
And it's a relatively easy, because I accidentally got into it the other day looking for something else, and it's a relatively easy application to do it. And for that business, it would be like $50 a year.
Yeah.
Due at the end of January every year.
And so if they do that now, before this is put in place, and in a year when they have to renew, they're not gonna be given pushback, they're grandfathered in, right? Okay, that's really good to know, because like I said, the process of being licensed, and I love that you did the whole packet, that doesn't tell the whole story. Really, there's different ways that you can be licensed. That's DHS, but there's also DES, so it's different. And it is a process, and it is a pain in the rear end. I can't imagine it's any better now than it was in 1997. And my husband hated it, and hopefully he's not listening. But it was a pain, because you had people coming in all the time, some unannounced. My children, would spend a whole day trying to get their room ready because the inspection was happening, and it was a process. Having to find your knives because they're locked up in a cabinet, and there's a fee, even in your own paperwork packet that you put down there. It talks about a $300 some fee, and that's for a group home. And that's a large chunk of change. And, many of our family providers just do not want to go through that hassle. They don't want to be limited to the number of kids they have coming and going. And so as long as it is complaint-based, that's what I want to make sure, because we don't have the childcare here. And I work up in Payson quite as well, and there's more up there, honestly. They're quite blessed compared to Globe Miami. I just don't want to put stumbling blocks. I think it's great. I wish so many of them would go through the process to be licensed, but I also can put myself in their shoes, and I understand why they don't, right? Yeah, and then the last thing I wanted to ask, just worst case scenario, this came through my head today. So if somebody does not go through the process, they don't get their business license, and all of a sudden they have that one neighbor who decides to put a complaint in, and this is their livelihood. They are raising their kids, like I was when my kids were little, just supplementing my income to keep our kids at home, and they don't want to follow this, and so they are denied. What does that look like for somebody? How much in fees and fines are they looking at in the future?
That's up to the judge.
Okay,
That'd be a first,
I know.
maybe code compliance could explain, but I haven't heard of a scenario. of a
no,
business that
and
could just
hopefully it
continue
would,
to operate.
it would never get there, but if you have that one neighbor, that could be a problem. You know, you might have an argument with one neighbor that decides to do a complaint on you. So that's the only thing.
You know, and then we ask questions, what's the complaint? Because we've got nuisance complaints, and so what's generating that? Oh, I just know there's 5 kids there instead of
Yeah.
4, or something like that. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
that's a difficult thing, you know, to prove,
Yeah.
possibly, so, yeah.
Okay.
But I haven't received.
And hopefully we never get there, because we do need the childcare, you know, so. I will be pushing that these wonderful people on Facebook social sites, you know, do contact, you know, and get their business license and ultimately get regulated, because there are horror stories. We have heard
I
them.
would say, Dana, if people did this to get the city license, they're not gonna get put on some kind of a, you know, code enforcement's gonna swoop into their neighborhood and check them out before they get their license, correct? I mean, if there's no reason to doubt they're doing a good job, their neighbors aren't complaining, they're in compliance of the traffic and so on and so forth.
It would just go through our typical business license process. Yeah, you know, I haven't seen one of these yet. So
Yeah.
it's like, you know, just be clear, knowing what this discussion is and everything, obviously, when you're making the application, be mindful.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, I don't have any other, I guess I do. Thank you. Sylvia?
Okay. Hi, I'm Sylvia Geyser again. Anyway, I'm still not clear with your ratios. You're showing DHS ratios and not DES. I'm DES licensed. I brought my license to show you. It's licensed for 4 for comp. So as you mentioned, Tracy, I do have 2 classes. I do childcare, but they also get the benefit of getting educated and getting ready for kindergarten. It's obvious that it is needed in our town because I have a very long wait list, probably gonna last 5 years from now. I can't service all of them. So it is very needed, and these kids need to be educated to get into kindergarten, so they're not gonna be stressed or have anxiety or any of that. They need to be ready. So with that being said, you're saying that I could have 5, my license says I could have 6, and that I could have 5 coming to my house per day. So how does that limit, or how am I able to provide the 2 services that I have for an AM and a PM if I've got 6 coming and then 6 going?
Yeah, so 6 at one time, it sounds like. Mm-hmm. And I think we covered that part. So, you know, I hope you received my emails. Did you?
I didn't.
Sent you a couple times, and I also called the phone number on your card. So I was, because I read the public, and it's included in the staff report, your comments on February 28th, and kind of addressed some of that in there. But I'd have to, you know, I'd love to see your license. The only other
I have it right here.
community, that'd be great. So what's their capacity? They said you're licensed for 6?
Yeah. I have all my
at one
other certificates here that are all education, and it's all based on childcare. So like Pam mentioned, you don't want your children sitting at home watching TV and having screen time. You want to teach them. Do you
So
want it?
the only other community, I know Gilbert says 5 for some reason, but I haven't seen anything more than
And that might be a DHS, because when
Yeah.
DES was wanting me to provide more childcare for more parents because it was needed, they wanted me to go group home, and I looked into that, and I think it was like $1,500 for the license, maybe $500, because
Okay.
DES is going to take care of some of it, but my ratios would have been 1 to 5
Okay.
if I didn't have another staff member.
So that's the other item I saw. So obviously you can have that. You just need to get an approved conditional use permit if you don't already have a business license and you're not grandfathered in. I'm comfortable with the DHS reference. You have the full spread, you know, slides. So the language included in the code is what I would recommend the commission continue with.
Okay, so if
yeah.
you're limiting 5 per day to my house, how is that gonna work with my
You
2 or
just have
3
to
or?
apply, if you don't have an existing business license, you'll just have to apply for a conditional use permit.
Dana, would you be able to describe the process of a conditional use permit? Like just
Absolutely.
understanding
Yeah, 'cause
that,
it's-
because you could still run the business that you have with a CUP. And so now we want to just make sure people understand what the ease of that process.
Yes, absolutely. So what it is, you make application, we notify all property owners within 300 feet of your property 15 days prior to a public hearing, and then the Planning and Zoning Commission hears that conditional use permit request that you apply for. And we hold a public hearing just like right now. And that's it. And then they hear from the public, neighbors. Normally up here, we don't get a lot of response to our conditional use permits historically. It just depends what it is, at least negative response. But that's the process. So it's a public process saying, hey, I'm going to have up to 10 kids at my house, or 6, or whatever it is over 4. So let me know if you have any concerns. And then we'll just say, we'll look at it and say, make sure, okay, you'll explain your times and stuff like that. And that'd be it. I only have 6 at one time, one period, and we do that twice a day or whatever it is. You put it in an application. It's, we just increased our fee for conditional use, I think maybe $500 or something like that. But,
And I
that's the
would need that
process.
instead of just your $50,
And then you should have a business license anyway,
okay.
according to our business license.
Okay, I've been doing this since 1995 and I've never been asked to get a business license.
Yeah, well, we might not know.
How could you not know?
Well, we met at the very first of these discussions, and I apologize, I'm not getting my emails through to you.
Yeah, no, I haven't
really
gotten any
wanted to have
emails.
that conversation.
And I have been licensed with the state of Arizona since 1995. I did a commercial for their website with my preschool daycare to advertise DES daycare. Not only that, I've done PowerPoints for DES for childcare, again, with my childcare preschool. So, I mean, for a while, if you went onto the DES website promoting First Things First in DES, you saw my face and my children on there. So how did you not know?
I'm looking for trouble.
No, and I'm not either. I just want to make sure that I'm compliant. And I mean, the 5 limits to my house is what honestly scares me. Like I said, I've been in this house since 2000, and I've never had any complaints or any traffic. None of my parents that come and drop off and pick up are blocking anybody's driveways. There was a police officer up there handling business, and he wasn't not able to get through. So he was able to get in and out. And that was during my pickup time of 5 kids. So,
Perfect, and that's exactly what we'd explain for a conditional use permit, and then you're,
and
fully
so
lawful once this code takes effect, if it's adopted, it would take effect 30 days after.
and so the business license or the conditional, that would cost me $500?
what I was just gonna
Is that a
say.
year, or is that just the one time?
One time,
Okay. And that would do
really
what
lot.
for me?
and really that covers, we have to advertise it. And so a little bit of staff work involved in doing all that. Post your site, post the sign on the property.
I don't post anything.
No, we have to, for zoning, for the zoning public
To
hearing.
give your neighbors an opportunity
It's part of the notification process, so when you say
to know
500.
you're going official. So once again, you don't have any complaints from your neighbors. So I can't imagine you're suddenly gonna have it because you try to fit within the codes. But now she's already approved by DES or DHS?
DES.
I mean, the $500 seems like
yeah.
a lot for conditional use permit for something that's permitted already.
That's what I'm not understanding. I already have a license, a state license, and now you're saying I need another license. And as far as my neighbors, every one of their children have come to my program.
So the question is, hey, will I be grandfathered once this goes into effect? Great, like right now, I know the code doesn't really allow that use. Why don't you shoot me an email? Either way, we've got avenues here. You can either get a use permit, or we can look at it and see if we can do a grandfathering, but it's tough because we don't have any history, any record for it, but I'll take a look at your records. And we'll take a look and probably talk to our attorney. all right, is this a
Feels to me
legal
like the city
non-conforming
should
use?
be able to honor all of your history through the state stuff,
Yeah.
at least on some level.
He might look at our current ordinance for home occupation and say, this would never be allowed based on what your current ordinance is. So is we just, reach out to me, please.
Yeah, because I do have a lot of certificates in education that I continue, and they all cost money. I mean, it isn't to stop with DES with me. I continue my education, and I am nationally accredited, and that comes with a $500 bill and 120 clock hours of education. And not only with that, I have my CDA, I have my First Things First, quality first 5-star rating. So all of that comes with time and a bill. And so now you're putting another one on me.
Potentially.
Yeah, and I know the last time we spoke, you mentioned something about being grandfathered in, and you didn't have a business card for me.
So I reached out. I'll tell you what, we'll definitely give it to you today before you
Okay.
leave. And I would just say, go online, apply for a business license.
Yeah, because, the last I spoke to you, I didn't need a business license, I just needed a permit, and that I would be grandfathered in.
What permit?
Some permit that I needed, it was gonna be a $50 permit.
Business license.
That would be business license, it'd be $50. It'd be
Okay,
you're talking
and-
about the
So
same
we
thing.
could be
I think.
avoiding a lot of this right now if we took care of that.
So if I got a business license tomorrow, then I wouldn't need the $500 other license?
That's the idea, yes.
I would certainly start there.
Okay,
So, and as a matter of fact, if you would mind, get Tony Manfredi's business card. Tony, do you have a card on you?
I can get one.
Or Paul, do you have a card? Anyway, I'll tell you what, I'll give you my contact info right now.
okay. Now, do you wanna see my business license, or do I
Yeah,
just
can you
save
just
that
email
for
it to me?
later?
So
Yeah.
this code, obviously applies to everybody in the community, so we'll take care of your personal situation.
We would want to do it outside of this meeting, because you don't want your business license part of the public record. That's the only thing. So yeah, just stay after for a minute, yeah.
Like everything's part of the public record for her.
Yeah.
You can go on the state websites, and I'm all over there, so I'm okay with that.
That's
I'm proud of my license, honestly.
I
I mean,
yeah.
since 1995, I've never had any issues at all with anything. So, no, I'm very proud of that license. Thank you.
What's up, yeah? That's how those messages weren't going. I thought something was
No, I
fishy.
didn't get any. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia.
Thank you.
Alexandra White? That's a fair question right there.
My name is Alexandra White. I live on Azul Lane in Globe. You'll have to excuse me, I'm a little congested, but I wanted to make sure that I was here for this, okay? I have questions about the 600-foot rule, and I just wanted some clarity on that. When you're talking about 600 foot, it mentions in there that two different distinguished people, so daycare instructor, instructor daycare, cannot be closer than a certain vicinity. But on the next part, you claim that some providers can educate, but still be deemed a daycare provider because that's what everybody should be doing. So my question is, where does that line fall? And does it mean two daycare providers can't be next to each other, or a preschool that claims they're a daycare can't be next to each other? What are the parameters on that?
Okay, yes, let's look at that language. And I think that the separation is only for instructional. So if you're just instructing children while you watch them for daycare, that's the primary use.
So my
So
question,
there's no separation.
well, so when you think of a daycare, other than Sylvia having all those licenses, in a technicality, I mean, they're all sort of instructors of sorts, right? Because the kids are learning even just having been there, which is why I'm asking these questions now so that it doesn't come up later. As that certain scenario, am I going to be classified as a daycare provider / some sort of instructor because I do influence the children in my care? Or will I still be allowed to be a private in-home provider that is not classified as an instructor for children?
Sounds like a private, either you gotta pull a license for one of the two, or you would apply for a license for one of the two. If you came to me and said, this is what I'm doing, I'm watching these children, and then I instruct them while I'm watching them, I would say, well, you're a daycare.
Okay. And in the event that a daycare and a preschool are within the 600 feet, that does
Daycares
not
don't have a
apply?
separation.
Okay, I just wanted
That's
to
not,
clarify.
that's instructional.
Okay, so
That's
just
the
two
only section
schools
with the
next to each other.
separation, because they
Okay.
could have 24 trips per day.
Okay,
So that's what you want to separate. But we don't have that same provision in the daycare when you read that section 5.
okay, yeah, I just wanted to be clear because the daycare and the instruction are gonna have the same amount of trips, right? It's not gonna change. And if
Exactly.
they're within 600 feet, I need to know if they fall into that rule, regardless of if they're an instructor or if they're just a daycare.
Correct. So instructional, so if you're doing instruction,
I'm not.
you do daycare?
I do
Yes,
childcare,
we'll
but I
separate that.
live literally one house away from a renowned preschool teacher who also does childcare. One house.
Yep.
Most of
Childcare.
my kids that I care for during the day walk to her house for preschool. I walk them down, they walk back. In the PM, I walk them down, they walk back. That's the only way their parents can afford it. So I want to make sure, again, that it's clear that our scenario does not play into that 600-foot rule.
Well, just the fact that you can walk back and forth reduces traffic.
Right, but either way,
You get
though,
dropped off once to get
my
both
kids
things.
coming are dropped in the morning and picked up at night. So I just want to make sure that I'm understanding correctly.
Once again, I can't stress enough that this is gonna be complaint-based, and you guys clearly have a neighborhood that support what you do.
They do,
And
absolutely.
so I don't think you really have a whole bunch to worry about, because you guys don't upset your neighbors. Like, if someone did suddenly, I see your other thing you're worried about, if there was, someone making false claims.
Correct.
If someone suddenly came and started attacking you too, it would be really weird that you've been doing it for as long as you have.
Thank you.
And you got a new neighbor that suddenly comes in and decides they don't like, 3-year-olds screaming in the backyard or something.
Yes, absolutely.
I see what you're worried about on that.
So that touched on the unfounded complaints and the process that will go through. Not my last, but my next question deals with the parking. So you're saying that where my home is zoned as residential, which means public parking does not apply?
I don't know where your home is, sorry.
So I live within city limits. I'm on Azul Lane, which is at the far end of Globe. I live in a cul-de-sac, not on a direct street. So regardless of where I live, if I'm in city limits, is the street in front of my home public parking for anyone? Or is it residential because my home is in front of it? Or is it HOA?
So if you have occupant or employees, the home's probably, again, I don't know that specific, I'm sure it's public right away.
So my question is, if it's public street that my parents or her parents are parking on, why is it being limited to X amount of times in a day if it is public parking for anyone to park at any time?
If you come in for a business license and say, I've got 2 employees and we're gonna run a daycare or something like that, we would say, show me the parking spaces on your site for your 2 employees
Okay.
before we issue you a license.
And those that aren't licensed, don't worry about that. They can come and go and,
Unless you start filing complaints against them.
yeah. Well, I mean, and that's the thing is, I have in the past and they've been never addressed. So I agree, this is a business that needs to be monitored and it needs to be tracked because there are providers that are providing unsafely, that have outrageous ratios, that, could endanger children. And that's something I hope can be a part of this, is that not just the neighbor who complains, but founded complaints are followed up on regardless of your caseload that you have. Because, I had taken notes and it was kind of like, well, I don't have time to all the time, but I have time. I hope those are prioritized because those ones, are gonna get missed if we're kind of picking and choosing or trying to find a basis of founded or unfounded.
I feel like this is trying to give the city teeth to be able to go and do that where it didn't have it before. If you filed a complaint and no one followed through, that's because maybe there was no code for it to really apply to, and that's what this is trying to do, right, Dana? I mean, that's what I feel like we're trying to do here, is give the city recourse if there is legitimate complaints. Someone's got 20 kids and
Right, guardrails, there's a serious issue and this, that's the only avenue. And there's code, it's a code compliance issue at that point. We have to have those metrics and those specific codes. Because those codes are specific to safety and traffic you know, and the things that are attributed to potential time, place, manner, life safety concerns, stuff like that. Enjoyment of peaceful enjoyment of your property and that right, noise coming from a property. So we have that language in there, you know, that if there is a problem, okay. But it always goes with warnings, discussions, things like that. How can we correct? Because I would say, if not 99 times out of 100, people are like, oh, I can just modify how I do this, and then there's no problem, stuff like that. So it's a long way to go to end up in court. I think you're definitely, yeah, obviously would be make it disturbing the peace in many ways, probably to get to that point.
Okay, my next topic is in relation to your amount of children that somebody can watch versus the relatives that they have, right? So I know you said 4 and below can be comp. So if a person has 4 and below children, but they have 3 cousins, nieces, or nephews that were also mentioned, do they fall into that ratio? Or because they're not being paid for, do they fall as non-comp?
Dependence is what the code says of the occupant.
I read relative, but I just wanted to be sure about that.
Dina said relative earlier, and then he quickly corrected back to dependence.
Okay.
So it is dependence, yeah.
Okay, so dependence in your home, and then the 4 comp, correct?
For non-dependent.
Non-dependence.
Non-dependence, okay. And then in reference to the thing that was brought up about LuLaRoe and other things like that.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Because I used to do that too, right? I work from home. I want to raise my kids. I want to spend as much time as I can before they graduate high school. So I was like a hustle mom, right? I did Pink Zebra. I did Color Street. I did daycare. Whatever I did, I had to use to bridge that income. With those particular companies, though, you're kind of a third party because you're buying it from the company and you're selling it using their name and their brand. And under that, I believe it requires through the state a transaction privilege tax license. So I have a transaction privilege tax license because I do provide services and I pay my taxes. I file taxes, all that stuff. But in relation to that specifically, how are you able, not even just to find, but to distinguish a line between Avon, LuLaRoe, this or that, versus what somebody else may be selling out of their home that's considered not that big of a thing because it's not a company? You know, it's me drawing a picture, right? And somebody's coming to pick it up, or I sell a portfolio and they come to pick it up.
Yep, and that would be, again, compliance-based. Somebody complains, you gotta take a look.
So it's kind of like a
But it doesn't
trial
sound
and
like
error
what you
sort of
stated
thing.
would, you know, if you said, I got 10 people coming every day, that, obviously we can see that, and then,
Okay.
and somebody's complaining about it, then we're like, oh, well, guess what, this is the code, so you're not supposed to do that. And if it continues, then we'll have to talk again.
Okay, and in regards to the prohibited uses within your home, I noticed you have personal care for dogs. There are no personal care for people, which is also offered inside of homes. So I'm wondering why that exclusion wasn't added to that.
You know, I've never had an issue with the beautician having one chair or something like that.
Is that you personally or working for
No,
a
that's
city?
just it's common. I know it doesn't create a problem for the neighborhood.
So if I did hair for however many people in a day and had that same traffic or more than 5 business or visits, I
Right.
mean, it would pertain, right? Because they
Exactly,
want to pack
correct.
their day too. So I'm curious why it's not an inclusion on the prohibited uses.
I just
Because I
don't.
mean, if we're talking about kennels or caring or grooming of an animal, I mean, grooming of people is no different, right?
No, animals are different because I think the barking is why it's a common issue. They have to go outside at times, stuff like that. So if you got a kennel or that type of activity, that's why that's specifically called out. We don't have that same problem with humans.
We don't, as in like, now I'm trying to understand because what I
It's
hear a lot of is
creating the,
you haven't seen this or you haven't seen that. But I'm saying if that all is included, why would you not include its counterpart, which would be people services, right?
People don't bark and.
They don't
and-
park, but
and
they
poop in
still
the
park,
backyard.
right? They still park and they have street space that's taken up. They
And
come
that's
and
where
go
we
and it
can
can
look at
be,
that, because we restrict parking, we restrict traffic.
and that traffic can be all through the night. I mean,
Exactly,
my mom was a
correct.
hairdresser. She had people come over at 9 o'clock at night because their schedule permitted.
And if somebody complains, we'll go out and take a look and say, are they getting more than 5 trips per day? And that's how we.
kind of
So
goes
it's just
back to-
case by case is how it's gonna work.
Well,
No, 5 trips per day and.
No, I
counts.
mean as a whole, as your complaint process goes.
Oh, yeah, it's always case by case. There's not the same case twice usually. There's always
complaints are
nuance.
handled case by case.
That's
yes.
exactly right.
So here, the thing is though, I don't know about y'all, but I'm looking to limit government, in interference into businesses and homes and things like that, right? It's a necessary thing here. And as Art pointed out, when I started to go down the rabbit hole of, whichever one it was, direct sales, we cannot possibly outline every type of profession that would happen in a home. The reason there's provisions for some of these is we've found that there's either precedent or problems. So precedent means it's spelled out in somebody else's code, and that might be where Dana's speaking from, because he does code for a lot of other cities. Or there's been problems that we feel like we need to address at this point. If there are precedent changes or problems in the future with beauticians or something like that, then it might be brought before this commission to decide to change it and amend the code again, just like we're doing today. We're attempting to amend it. What we don't want to try to do today, which Art rightly corrected me from trying to do earlier inadvertently, is try to list out everything that could possibly be a business here. We don't want to stipulate that.
So on the original proposal and the last meeting that I was at, hairdresser was on there, but now it's not on there. So I'm curious, it's there, it's not there, but we're going based on complaint base. My question is, so it just got removed to get removed?
I can't speak to, I'll allow Dana to speak to that in a
I'll
moment,
take
but
a look.
again, you gotta remember what we asked for as a commission is that the city research what the best practices were, the precedent, if you will. Gold standard has also been used tonight to describe that, as well as to address any specific problems that were raised. So there may very well be many changes as to what was originally proposed and then now what is proposed to us that will then be proposed to city council, because it's going through that editing process.
Got it. Yeah, I was confused because it was the pool catalyst that started all of this. So I'm just curious, like how far it's going to go or where that line is drawn, or is it a standard, not standard, case by case, how somebody feels, who knows you, that kind of a situation. So my last question is, if I'm working from home and I own a daycare and my husband is laid off and he doesn't have a job, and the only way in between to bridge that time is for him to work from home, however means possible, that would make 2 businesses in one house, which would be prohibited, correct?
No, I didn't see that.
I don't think so. I don't think multiple businesses are prohibited.
Right, you could have 5 businesses, right? And operate out of your house.
I'm sorry, I thought that was on the prohibited list of multiple businesses, no?
If I recall.
Can you bring it back up, Dana?
I was looking, I'm still looking for the last.
Yeah, okay.
There's 6 items under prohibited list, uses.
Firearms, medical
mar-
marijuana, repair, reconditioning, drop-off repair, fix-it, plumbing shops, kennel storage, carrying.
My apologies, it was probably on the page earlier where it was detailing the type of businesses. So again, I just wanted to clarify if that would be an issue, that would not be an issue. What I'm hearing you say is it would not be an issue, correct? Okay. As far as the process and license fee, I know that you're saying that a person can go and get a use permit through the city. What does that entail? Does that entail any criteria other than the use permit for the city?
I would try to go for the business license first and then take it from there if you're talking about like the use permit. The CUP would be if you're going in with too many kids or something. So you want to say that you've got a teenage or 20-year-old daughter that's helping you, so she lives there, so she could be an employee. You could have another employee, so you could have 15 kids because you've got 3 adults in there or whatever. And then that would be where you would be looking for a CUP. Maybe is that you've got enough employees to do it, but you want to exceed the number of kids that you're allowed to have.
And it wouldn't be like, for example, 15, it would be anywhere between 5 and 9. That's what we would.
No,
allow
I'm
the
saying
CUP
if they
for.
wanted to go outside of it, if they even wanted to go farther outside, because they've got enough adults there to be, and to be watching them. So that's where I feel like a CUP would really come in.
Okay, and the requirements to get a license through the city, what do I need to have to do that?
You can go on the Globe City license and go into forms and it'll pull it up and you can look at it. It's right there. Like I say, I accidentally got into it the other day. I was looking for something else. And so it had the pages, all the questions, everything that was involved in it that you would
So-
turn in.
My question on that is still, to have a license through the city, do I need a license through DES, the state of Arizona, or do I just need a license through the city?
If this code gets adopted, you just need a license through the city. Either way, and we have a caveat that get all the other necessary licenses for your business that you're required to have by other agencies. We don't look at it, we don't get into it, that's just cover ourselves.
So at this current time, if I got a business license, correct, to be grandfathered into whatever may happen, I apply for a business license, I don't need any other licensing, I just go in, apply, give them my trade
You don't
name.
need to show anything else.
Okay, that's perfect, thank you so much.
Didn't see hairdressing in here in prior conversations. Yeah, dude, it might have been all those that I think we said, hey, everything else, yeah, well, I'll take a look at it with you.
We're good there. All right, so that's all the ones I have here. Do we have anybody on email, any text messages, anything else?
One more time.
Or anyone else here that has something to say?
I have no text.
Okay, so in that case, I'm going to close the public hearing. Does anyone here have anything we want to say, or do we have a motion?
I'm
I have a motion.
very conflicted at this point with regards to us. Either you require the licensing or you don't. And I was actually kind of shocked to hear that we have a lot of places that are not conforming, that are watching your children. Having said that, I understand that some people can be very proficient at their job, but why are we telling them that they have to get the appropriate licensing? They have to get a business license through the city of Globe, but we're leaving the compliance of everything else up to everybody, but that's listed as what a requirement has to be for them to follow up.
Well, and my thoughts are, then how are you going to go through you're going to go on Facebook and start looking at all of them and go to their houses and bang on the door because they don't have the license? Or the ones that are legit and have been doing it for years that can get grandfathered in and not have to worry about it? I mean, to me, that's where it is. And then because,
One of the ladies that was here, she was just talking about that there are so many that they're trying to get on board, right? To try and get them to comply and stuff. This isn't remedying any of that problem, so we're saying that that's gonna be complaint-based as well, but we're still gonna put that in to where you are supposed to go and get your own licensing for state, whatever regulation licensing that you have to have.
Correct, and that's a catch-all. So let's see an example. Somebody is taking care of children. Somebody in that house, maybe an adult or something like that, has an issue with children or there's some abuse that occurs. If the city didn't have something like that and we issued a business license for their activity, there's a good chance, we could
We're gonna be
potentially.
liable. The city
Thank
would be
you.
liable.
But if we say, well, our code says you're required to have all the appropriate licensing, so that, and you didn't, then we're as covered as we can be in that situation. The alternative is require it and have them provide us that information, and we have to document it. If you want to talk about that, we can. But alternatively, we have to have some reference to, and that's not uncommon for most of our other business license codes, like, hey, if you're responsible to get all this stuff, health permits, that's up to you. And no, maintaining a valid business license will require that. So if the city or the DHS comes and says, hey, what's going on here? This person doesn't have a license and we've got an infraction going on, you issued a business license, that's the best we can do. Unless you say, no, we need to review and have on file those required licenses, and then we gotta learn what
So
those
if
are.
someone gets turned in, that would be something that the city would look at with regards to, a complaint that would be filed or saying that someone didn't have a license, since that excerpt's in there with regards to the state licensing and things like that, okay? Then what does the responsibility come from the city at that time when we get a complaint saying that somebody is not licensed and has not been grandfathered in for whatever reason? You know, someone doing it since the 1990s or whatever the case may be, and it's a continued business without a gap in it. So.
And there's
I-
an
I-
issue, and there's a violation, and there's like an abuse situation that comes up or something,
Well,
infraction.
A multitude of things.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a difference between a babysitter and a child care center.
Right,
okay?
exactly.
A babysitter can babysit somebody's couple of kids and stuff like that. A child care center, to me, should sustain more education and more thoughtfulness with regards to the kids that they're managing. I mean, just for basics nowadays of what the heck goes on throughout the entire United States of America. Globe's no different. We can still suffer those same consequences. Again, I think that puts the city of Globe up for a little bit of a legal issue, even with that paragraph that we have in there, if we're not sure about compliance and they haven't been previously grandfathered in.
If we're not requiring
So-
them to provide that
Correct.
information.
Now, I may be way off base, I don't know. I don't have kids that go to daycare anymore, but, you know,
But to-
I'm not interested in someone who's gonna try and take care of 10 kids and they got one person there, and we've given them a business license to run their daycare when they have actually nothing
Right.
that's going to keep them from being detrimental in any way, shape, or form with regards to dealing with the children.
Do we
I got
have?
a problem with that.
So along those lines, when other types of businesses apply for a business license, do we require them to show those, like a liquor license?
I had to show my liquor license.
You had to show your liquor license.
I didn't have to
That's
show
a
my
state-
real estate
That's a city.
license.
That's
We're
a city
required
and a
to
sto-
process
state, but it's a whole nother
So I
thing, but
can't
yeah, I had
verify
to.
that real quick. Our business licenses are for revenue only
Yeah,
purposes, is that correct? And not regulatory.
then that's the caveat. That's the legal caveat, is that they're for revenue only and not for legal purposes. And we've notified the person that you're responsible for obtaining all of your correct certifications and licenses. And if you don't, you're liable. And that type of language is what keeps the city
So that will
typically
allow
clear.
someone to be denied to have a home-based business doing this if there's a complaint and it's investigated by the city of Globe and that code is sitting in there with regards to that paragraph.
Wouldn't they tie it to the nuisance that
No, it would
caused the
be-
complaint?
No, I'm not talking about nuisance. I'm talking about someone saying, oh, I was talking to the healthcare provider I just dropped my kid off at, and oh, by the way, they're not licensed. And you have whatever TIF you have, because it happens all the time.
Yeah.
So they call Dana's office and say, hey, this person does not have any kind of licensing, blah, blah, blah. So does that then allow the city at that point in time, if there's an issue, to turn around to that person and say, I'm sorry, you can no longer have a home-based operation here when it's investigated by
No,
the
we
city
wouldn't, we
should
wouldn't
refer
be
them to
that
the
brash
state.
or that quick. Like I said, there's a mile of conversation that goes, hey, we heard you're not maintaining your required licenses per the state. Just know this ordinance says that if you're doing a home care, you're required to have those licenses.
Why are we making ordinances that we can't enforce with regards to what's going on around us? I don't get that. That's just a continuation of where we go right now to try and figure out how to keep continuity through so that there is less frustration level. So if we put that in there, again, covering the city with regards to potential legal issues, then to me, then there's no consequences for the person who's violating, so why even bother having any complaints?
There
Because
are-
you're not gonna do anything
There are
about it.
serious consequences, but when that complainter calls the city or Dana to say, hey, this is happening, the response from the city, I believe, and they're here, they can correct me if I'm wrong, would be, hey, that's really serious, and we need to get you in touch with DHS or DES or, and I don't have kids, so I apologize, I don't know the terms, but we need to get you in touch with the right people who regulate that type of business
They're
and
breaking
activity.
our ordinance. They are taking the City of Globe ordinance and not abiding by it. So the consequences are that you're gonna ask them,
We say,
obviously,
"You're
do you
required to have
licensing?"
this.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then they say, oh, no, I can't afford to do that, or I don't wanna do that, or I'm not going to do that. Then what are the repercussions, if any, or consequences that that place would have, where we're making all of the other people who are trying to do what they're supposed to do and abide by the laws and the regulations and the ordinances that the City of Globe has set up? And then, so what, if we're not gonna say, I'm sorry, you can no longer have a business license at this point, but some of them
We
are going
would
to get
usually
it.
give them, you've got a 90 days, 180 days to get your licensing
And
and
then what
provide it
happens if
to
they
us.
don't?
Right. We're gonna not reissue your business license next year.
And so then they'll just not get the business license and continue the business.
Hey, right. Well, and then
Has to be
somebody
a different
complains,
way to
or
handle
what
it.
happens though, what's the issue here? One person might not have enjoyed it and they made a complaint, or we've got multiple complaints for whatever reason. I don't know if you said not liking the provider or something like that, but it just depends. Again, it's nuanced. But, if somebody, if there's obviously a consistent issue and they're not working to remedy it, we're gonna not issue another business license to them. And will they go underground or not? Who knows? We can watch that if we need to. It all just depends on the scenario. Was this some crazy situation, or is this a very rogue, limited reason why that one person complained about this person? Let's follow it. Either way, this is what the code is. Please get your license. You could jeopardize losing your business license. Now, that person you just mentioned, why would they get a business license if they're not getting any other licenses? And not letting anybody else
Because we've
know.
already cleared the path for them to be able to do that. We've already told them that that's okay if you get your business license. Here's the issue. We're not gonna follow up with anything. Everything's gonna be hunky-dory and you're gonna have a wonderful life and your childcare stuff stays intact.
The alternative is we need to require it then, and say you're required to provide proof of. And if you'd like to do that, I would suggest you make a motion to modify item K. Licenses, all required city, state, and other applicable agency licenses are required to be secured and maintained and provided to the city upon business license issuance for the duration of the home occupation. So you can make that motion. If that solves that problem, I don't know.
Or you don't have to vote in favor of it.
Well, I understand that we have an issue and that we do need additional childcare in this area. It happens all the time with the people I deal with at my office. That one lady's discussion that she had and the questions she asked were very concerning to me. That there's that many places that are operating without any kind of, thank you, oversight. I am concerned about that. And we're changing our ordinance to help with this. I mean, that's the whole conversation we've had all night, so. Okay.
Do we allow it? Do we don't allow it?
Well, I think I'm the only one that's saying that or has an objection.
No, and I might not
to it,
understand,
so.
maybe I don't understand the scenario, but if we're talking about safety concerns, right? Because we were talking about abuse, and I don't know if that's just one of many examples. But when you're talking about safety concerns, especially with children, that goes a whole other way. Like, that's calling the police, that's calling, you know what I mean? Like, that goes a whole
I'm just
different
talking
way
about regulation,
than the
period.
zoning.
But we
I'm
have to
talking about
fall
they
back.
have one person for 10 kids.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's not supervision. You can't possibly track, I don't care who you are, track
Yeah.
10 kids with one person, okay? So that's what I'm saying. These things that like I said, I did not realize that we had as much going on out there as we apparently do, according to what we heard tonight. And
No, that's fair.
it is concerning that we don't have any teeth. The teeth are gone.
So could we ask, and I don't know if it's Dana or somebody, a different member of the city to speak to, like, we know that establishments that provide alcohol have to have a liquor license, right? I would assume that restaurants have to provide some sort of food handlers. So if there's already precedent in the city for requesting licenses, proof of related licenses for this, then there's no danger in modifying item K as Dana had suggested, where.
But there's no licensing in the city like what Tracy has to deal with the liquor, because that would be city and state. This daycare stuff in childcare is only for state and whatever federal guidelines may or may not be present, I don't know. The city doesn't currently have any regulations with regards to that, except for what we're going over here for the text amendment changes. That's on.
Yeah, I know, and I get it, but it would take a police state to go find, to go. I mean, I appreciate that there's probably a lot of them out there we wish were better, licensed and everything, but unless you're gonna, or if someone's gonna watch Facebook and say, okay, we gotta go check this one out, I mean, that's kind of police state-ish to me, so. I get where you're coming from, but I also don't see that it's an easy fix to say that now all of a sudden we're gonna go find the 30 or 40 other ones that keep kids that might have too many kids and not enough adults watching them. How do you do that?
I I'm talking about us asking, or saying, you are responsible for getting your licenses with the city having nothing that falls back on, or being able to justify, or be able to, find out if any of that is incorrect. I mean, you're not gonna serve beer in your bar without having your liquor license.
Yeah, they're not even gonna
I
deliver
don't
it to
even
you.
have revenue that's generated for the real estate stuff, and I still had to get a business license, okay? I understand the purpose of it. I'm just saying that we have that in there to cover the city's legal obligations, but it doesn't make any sense to me because it doesn't seem to make any difference at all. So,
And I'm sure
but it
there's
doesn't matter.
other
I'm good.
references, I'm not looking at, but there's other references. It's one of those, it's typical lawyer term in some ways, but we have other provisions that will, I think marijuana is the only one that says you have to provide that evidence. And then you go through the business license and it gets into certain business activities do require certain proof of licensing and compliance. It's limited things, and there's other areas, engineering permits and stuff like that. Sometimes you need to be in compliance. We're gonna issue this permit, but you gotta be in compliance with NEPA.
And yet we'll check to
and
see if
say
somebody pulled a
ADEQ,
permit for
you're
a
required to
water
be in
meter
compliance.
install or something, okay? And something that affects them is a thing that we have to use in our life here in our community for a business that is apparently much sought after. So I mean, this is why, in my opinion, that sometimes the city gets these, it doesn't matter. Thank you. I don't have any other questions. Thank you, Dana, I appreciate it.
Art, you had something?
Yeah, Madam Chairman, I just want to make sure that we stay within the scope of we serve the city council, and we have a specific duty to the city council. We reference codes and licenses, but we don't make codes and licenses, and we don't enforce codes and licenses. We just reference them as part of our criteria to conduct our business here. And
Beyond our city codes and like.
yeah. That's my own point.
Thank you, Art. Mary?
No, I got it all written out. I'm ready.
You ready? Okay, lay it on me.
Do you want to ask for more questions? Maybe Justin
I
has a
do-
question.
Justin, you got anything you want to add? Did we lose Justin? I don't see him on the screen anymore.
Left the meeting for the record, yes.
It's Justin's bedtime, so.
Okay. If there's no further questions,
I motion to recommend the city council adopt ordinance 894 to amend the zoning code by expanding home occupancy code provisions with the two text amendments to item number 5 and I noted tonight by the commission.
do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, nay.
Nay.
We got, and Justin's gone, so we got 3 ayes and 1 nay. The ayes have it. Now, next, we are moving on to C, public hearing and consideration of recommendation to the city, Globe City County, for ordinance number 895, a zoning code text amendment to clarify the minimum parking lot paving standards and to provide alternative parking lot surfacing criteria for site-specific conditions. Case number ZTA-25-02. Dana?
Thank you so much, Madam Chair and Commissioners. The other item that came up in discussions on prior applications to the Planning and Zoning Commission back in last March or May, when the commission directed staff to research paving standards for parking lots in the city, and consider alternatives and how do we develop language that will look at and provide options and alternatives to the public. Similarly, the city's had extensive, or Planning and Zoning Commission, extensive discussions and meetings on this topic. I think we're about 5 or 6 as well. Equally, on February 20th, we held that citizen review meeting for both of the prior agenda item as well as this one, and discussed, we had about 3 members of the public outside staff in attendance for that meeting. And really not much interest on that as opposed to the item that we just discussed. So with that, I did identify one nuance that one member of the public mentioned, and when we talked about the paving standards and why in high-traffic areas do you typically have paving in lieu of gravel and other things, and largely because of the obviously tracking material into the right-of-way, wash out material into the right-of-way, and the safety issues that might occur or create for high-traffic parking lots. And then as well, ADA access that's required for businesses, mobility, people with mobility needs. Also, so, and dust control and other, maintenance of our flood structures, things like that came up. Yeah, it was a good discussion, but overall, I won't even bother. You do have the staff report. I won't bother with the presentation as we've had them. I can show you. Yes. So we can get right into the language if you like, or if you would just like to go right to the public administration. We've made adjustments based on your prior recommendations, cleaned it out. I did, unfortunately, I know the city's been very busy in engineering and flood control and all that great stuff and FEMA work. So haven't had time to really develop that design manual as we need to. But I did provide in your reports Exhibit B, that is the summary of what we pulled out of our discussion with respect to specific standards and guidelines for certain types of parking and paving and things to consider, what's appropriate. And basically identifying the fact that, when we're looking at paving, there's certain criteria that city engineer needs to take into account and the design engineer for the property owner or client. And one is the amount of traffic, the volume of the use and the demand, because that has a serious impact on the long-term maintenance of that parking lot. That, as well as the drainage considerations, weight of vehicles, is it loading, unloading, all that fun stuff. So we hopefully have a good succinct staff report there that kind of outlines all of that. Happy to dig in to any of it. Other than that, staff recommends approval as written, as drafted.
Any questions, comments, concerns? I think we beat this one to death.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got one person that wants to speak.
Open it for public hearing.
Well, this isn't a public hearing, so that's why I'm getting ready to ask.
It is a public hearing.
Oh, it is a public, oh, it is a public hearing, okay. we're
When
gonna
you
open
open it up.
Open, Tina? Sorry, I can't read your last name.
Thank you for your time. So I'm sure you guys know Tina Andres. I own 2 properties out here, right there by the Hill Street School Apartments. The one on Hill Street is actually right across the street from a patch that you guys had performed. I don't know if it was the city or the Hill Street School Apartments. However, there's vehicles like hitting it every time and it's asphalt, but it's a huge 2 bumps just next to each other, right? So I'm wondering, as time goes on, right, there's always new advancements in different types of asphalt. I know that just to get an area, rolled out and pushed down and compacted enough is probably in the thousands, right? Just for the compaction, not to mention the asphalt being, delivered to Globe and then laid out. So how do we set the standard for what asphalt is actually approved, right? Or what, quality of layment is actually utilized.
Is this actually a street or a parking lot?
So Hill Street. So if you're right across the street from Nerdburger, right across the street from my house. So I live in the tan and purple house next door to Nerdburger, the 2-story, 4-plex. And it's actually on the Hill Street School Apartments side, but there's a patch that was done, and I've seen city vehicles romp over it on my cameras, and it's it's the quality of asphalt that is used by the city, right? But it's not up to standards as far as the heat. I don't know if it was driven over too quickly, or if it was the heat that affected it, or what made it bubble up like that. But even at the building that across from the tire shop, the city uses it. They have sandbags still out. Connex is in the lot. I think it's like the old High Time appliance store. Whenever the flood happened, that asphalt got ripped up. I mean, there's advancements all the time in different, types of asphalt that's used, or the different components in asphalt. So how are we to manage that?
Okay, I think, Dana,
That was
this
a
is for
loaded
parking lots,
statement.
what we're dealing with here, and not the street.
Correct, and I would suggest, Tina, if you wanna just, send us an email, that's a Public Works, it's a right-of-way situation, and our Public Works Department would be interested to know that. Better than it's bubbling up than going down, huh? It's not going down,
It's both. It's
it's undulated,
It was probably, it was either unengineered or
Yeah.
engineered improperly,
inappropriate
or
patchwork, possibly.
something.
Yeah,
but
and that could have been a subcontractor coming in and doing it.
It's the standard of
because
asphalt is what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
Yeah, it was the word.
Right.
So please, you have my contact, or if not, maybe I'll write it down for you.
And then,
And contact me, and then we'll put you in touch with Travis Aspal, who's our manager of Public Works. He's familiar with that. He or John Angelo, they'll go out and take a look at that and assess it. Look who maybe did the work. And
would you like to say something?
Well, and I don't wanna, it seemed like you might have a second question or comment, and I don't wanna cut you off.
What are the like, what's the regulations or requirements for putting an asphalt parking lot? I mean, it's gonna be in the thousands just for somebody to put a required asphalt, lot. So,
Yeah.
I mean, is that gonna be complaint based as well, or is that gonna be just going through the neighborhoods, driving around, or how is that gonna be,
so
Set
they
in play.
make a proposal for a private parking lot. So somebody comes in, they want to use the parking lot, they want to build a parking lot for some reason. Usually it's the use associated with that lot or that site. And they say, hey, this is what I want to do. And this is what I want to surface it with. And let's say they say, we just want to throw down gravel. Is that cool? And then we'll look at it, and our city engineer makes a decision. Currently, that's how the code reads. And he's going to look at that and say, well, you need to provide me this detail, explain your, the amount of traffic, what type of vehicles are there. So regardless of what that person wants to do, we understand through our research and review of best practices that certain types of surfaces are appropriate for different types of uses depending on the location and everything. So if it's a temporary overflow parking space that's not utilized, those are appropriate for gravel surfaces. If it's a use that's, let's say, a quick serve restaurant on the highway and they want to throw down gravel, well, we know for a fact out of experience and engineering standards that that's a horrible idea. That material will end up in the street, it'll rut, it'll become a maintenance nightmare and a big problem and public safety issues because of that material. Also, they're required to stripe their parking spaces and provide ADA access to the business. And that's very difficult on certain surfaces like gravel. So that's how that happens. It's based on location, use, grading and drainage, flood plain, whether or not it's in the floodplain, and if it's gonna get inundated with water, all that. And it needs to transmit that water and move it along. And then if we have catch basins for stormwater nearby, that material ends up in there and then starts to reduce the city's infrastructure's ability to pass that water as it's designed. And it becomes a maintenance issue basically for the city. So all of those things together, among others, are why they need to propose a plan to our city engineer who permits those, and it gets reviewed.
Who is the city engineer right now, if I can ask that?
Luis
Is that the same one that was doing
Chavez Flores.
what was the Connie's Bridge? Is that the same one?
I'm not
Out of
familiar.
curiosity?
I'm not familiar, but most likely. He's a city engineer.
Okay, I'll send an email. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming out and thank you for
You
speaking.
want my address or you got it?
Anybody have anything to say? If not, and we're done here, so I'm gonna close the public hearing. Do I have a motion?
I saw you taking notes. Are you making the motion or what?
Or do you have something to say?
Oh, I didn't pull it up. From the staff report.
Questions? Concerns?
I make a motion that we accept Globe City ordinance number 895 zoning code text amendment to clarify the minimum parking paving standards as written, and that's my motion.
So what we would do, we're gonna start over, so you have to,
Okay.
you're motioning to recommend that the city, amend, no, where is it, let's see here,
It should be on your screen right now.
Yeah, it's right in front of me.
Staff recommendation.
there it is, this line, that's what you wanna
Okay.
read, right there.
Okay, motion to recommend the city council adopt ordinance number 895 to amend the zoning code by clarifying the minimum parking paving standards and to provide alternate parking lot surfacing criteria for site-specific conditions.
Second,
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Nay? The ayes have it. Okay, Shelley, any future meetings we need to be talking about?
I'll defer to Dana.
Yeah, I've got a handful of things I need to bring forward, couple updates. I'll reach out for your availability for future meetings. It would probably be, let's see here. This goes to council on 24th. As of now, I don't have any applications in here for you, but there could be policy stuff to bring up at your next meeting. But we'll confirm before the end of this week if there is another meeting this month. That item, for the public's sake, both text amendments will be before planning and zoning, city council on February 24th. And I'll reach out to. And then, a quick update regarding, so our planner of, Sandra, who was hired, is no longer with us as of now. However, a new hire, will be explained or presented to you or introduced to you soon. I believe they might start towards the end of the month. Perfect. Someone with a lot of background.
Okay.
That's all we have.
Good.
Very good. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion,
To adjourn.
Second.
second,
There you go. I got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
aye,
Any opposed? I doubt it. Nay.
thank you.
No nays.
Thanks, Shirley.